There are moments in life, Libra, when everything suddenly feels different, even though nothing on the outside has changed. No thunder, no dramatic signs, just a quiet, unfamiliar feeling slipping into your chest. You wake up earlier than usual, or lie awake late at night, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, while your heart refuses to settle. It is not exactly anxiety, not exactly fear. It feels more like something inside you is gently knocking, soft, persistent, impossible to ignore. Over the next 3 days, Libra, you are not just moving through time. You are crossing a threshold. The repeating signs you have noticed, the numbers, the random words you overhear, the vague dreams that linger long after you wake, none of this is coincidence anymore. When the universe wants your attention, it does not shout. It whispers. And the moment you begin to hear that whisper, it means you are already more ready than you realize. You may feel restless without knowing why. You may notice yourself becoming more sensitive, more emotional, or suddenly very quiet, pulling inward. There are moments when you wonder why you are thinking so much, why old questions are resurfacing, why your heart feels heavy whenever a familiar memory appears. This is not you moving backward. It is a sign that an inner door is slowly opening, and the light behind it is beginning to reach the deepest corners of your soul. Libra, you are used to keeping the balance. You are used to being the peacemaker, the listener, the one who puts other people's feelings first. But when this energetic gate begins to open, it does not ask if you are ready. It simply reminds you that it is time to be honest with yourself. The urge you are feeling is not here to make you uneasy. It is here to awaken a part of you that has been ignored for a long time. The part that knows what you need, what you deserve, and no longer wants to live half present in your own life. If lately you feel less capable of enduring, less willing to brush off what hurts you, be gentle with yourself. This does not mean you are becoming difficult. It means you are growing quietly, deeply. This opening is not here to throw you into chaos. It is here to guide you back to where you belong, to a place where you do not have to strain to be loved, where you do not have to stay silent to keep the peace, where you do not have to sacrifice yourself to prove your worth. Listen to the small signals in your body, your breath, your heartbeat, those sudden pauses in between. They are speaking to you in a very ancient, very honest language. And when you allow yourself to slow down, even for a moment, just to feel, you begin to understand something important. This change is not here to take anything from you. It is here to return something you lost a long time ago, a part of your strength that has been sleeping. There is a soft light moving through you now. Slow, gentle, finding its way through old cracks. It does not rush. It waits for you to open your heart. And the moment you trust that this feeling matters, that this inner pull is not random, you begin to walk differently. Even if it is only one small step, lighter, more honest, closer to who you truly are. And from there your story begins to change color, quietly, but in a way that cannot be undone. By now, Libra, you may be starting to recognize a truth you once avoided, that you have been strong for far too long in ways no one ever saw. Not loud strength, not visible victories, but the quiet endurance of someone constantly holding things together, trying to keep everything from breaking. You became used to standing in the middle, the one who smooths things over, the one who softens the atmosphere even while storms rage inside. You did it so well that you forgot what it feels like to lean on someone else. Pressure never arrives all at once. It builds slowly, through every time you chose silence instead of speaking your truth, through every forced smile when you were already exhausted, through every moment you told yourself just one more compromise would be fine. You learned to protect the peace because you feared that if you let go, everything would fall apart. You learned to balance others because you believed it was your responsibility. And you learned to pretend you were okay because you did not want anyone to worry, did not want to become a burden in someone else's story. But there is something you did not realize back then. Every time you pushed yourself aside, your body remembered. Your soul remembered. They never forget. They simply wait until the moment is full enough to speak. And the tightness you feel now is not weakness. It is the natural result of holding yourself together for too long, of carrying what was never yours to carry. You may notice that you tire more easily now, that your patience is thinner, that you no longer have the energy for meaningless conversations. You may begin to question old choices, old compromises you once believed were necessary. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself endlessly. You no longer feel the urge to prove that you are fine. And this confuses you, because you were always the reasonable one, the accommodating one, the one who endured. But the energy surrounding you now will not allow further delay. It is not here to punish you. It is here to remind you that real balance cannot be built on one-sided sacrifice. You were not born to keep everything peaceful by hurting yourself. The pressure you feel is the push you needed, the necessary touch to show you how long you have been neglecting yourself. If there is a clear desire inside you now, even if you have not named it yet, the desire to stop, to breathe deeply, to let go of what no longer fits, trust this. It is not temporary exhaustion. It comes from your inner wisdom, from the part of you that has been watching quietly, waiting for the moment you would be brave enough to listen. Letting go does not mean failure. It simply means you understand now that not everything needs to be saved through endurance. Some things must be set down so you can stand upright again, with your back no longer bent by weight, with your heart no longer heavy from words never spoken. And when you allow yourself to admit that you are tired, that you need change, you open a very real space. A space where healing begins not through effort, but through honesty with yourself. A quiet shift is taking place now. Deep, hidden, not loud, yet strong enough to shake old structures. And when you sit with this feeling, without running, without judgment, you begin to see something clearly. This pressure is not here to crush you. It is here to lift you, in a way you have never allowed yourself to experience before. And as that lifting force begins to appear, very gently, Libra starts to notice something else happening at the same time. Something in your life no longer responds the way it used to. There is no spark, no pull, no grip. The things that once made you hesitate, that once weighed on your heart every time you thought about them, now feel distant, faded, like an old room you have not entered in a very long time. You are not turning your back on it. You are not forcing an ending. Your energy simply no longer flows there. A cycle has quietly completed its purpose. No announcement, no drama. It arrived, it stayed, it taught you what you needed to learn, and then it stepped aside when you were no longer the same person. It may have been a relationship that once mattered deeply, where you learned how to love, but also learned how easily you could lose yourself. It may have been a job that once made you feel secure, but slowly drained the joy out of living. Or it may have been a belief you carried for years, that you must always yield to keep things peaceful, that silence was the safest way to maintain harmony. None of these things were wrong. They are simply no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And what is remarkable is this: you do not have to force yourself to let go. When the time arrives, the separation happens naturally. You begin to feel tired of repeating old patterns. You no longer have the energy for circular conversations, for endless compromises. Inside you, a strange space appears, empty, yet light, as if you have finally set down a suitcase you have been carrying for far too long. The energetic gate opens in that exact moment, not to add more weight, but to cleanse, to remove what has already completed its role, whether you feel ready or not. And the truth is, the deeper part of you has been ready for a long time. Only the mind hesitated, afraid that if you let go, there would be nothing left to hold on to. But notice what happens when something old leaves. The space around you shifts. The air feels lighter. Your breath goes deeper. Your thoughts no longer collide the way they used to. You begin to hear your inner voice clearly, no longer drowned out by obligation or the need to please others. A new kind of quiet takes shape, not loneliness, but the stillness of someone who has finally stopped betraying themselves. The version of Libra who always yielded, who always placed themselves last, has fulfilled their role. Through that version, you learned empathy, sensitivity, and the ability to see many sides of the same truth. But you do not need to live in that role forever. Growth does not require endless endurance. It invites you into a different way of being, where balance begins within, not by spreading yourself thin for others. When you allow the old cycle to close, even with the smallest, quietest yes inside your heart, you are doing something deeply brave. You are trusting that life can support you without demanding constant sacrifice. And in the silence that follows that choice, many things begin to shift. Not hurried, not loud, just a new current finding its way into your life, carrying the feeling that what is coming next will not ask you to become smaller, but will allow you to be fully yourself, more whole than you have ever been before. And it is in this state of wholeness that Libra begins to see something very clearly, even if you once tried to look away from it. The way you give your energy, the way you give your time, your effort, your devotion, your kindness, often without asking for much in return. You once believed this was simply who you were, that this was goodness, that this was the price of harmony. But now, as the light reaches the deepest places within you, you can see the imbalance clearly. The wide gap between what you have given and what you have received. Over these days, your relationship with money begins to shift. It is no longer just a number. It becomes a mirror reflecting how you have been valuing yourself. You begin to understand that scarcity does not always come from circumstance. Sometimes, it comes from becoming used to accepting less than what you truly deserve, used to not asking, used to saying you are fine, even as something inside you slowly runs dry. You may suddenly remember moments when you gave more than was ever required of you. When you carried responsibilities that were never yours. When you stayed in situations that drained you, simply because you did not want to disappoint anyone. Those choices once came from kindness, but now they leave behind a different feeling. Not regret. Awareness. A quiet, steady question rises within you. Do I still want to live this way? This shift does not arrive like a gift falling from the sky. It begins the moment you stop convincing yourself that you must endure just a little longer. When you start to respect your own effort, the energy around you responds. You no longer feel guilty for saying no. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself endlessly when your choices come from self-respect. Money, opportunity, recognition, all begin to react to this inner change. Not because you have become selfish, but because you have become honest. Honest about what you need. Honest about where your limits are. And once that honesty is in place, the flow begins to move differently. More gently, more fairly, more in alignment with the person you are becoming. Libra begins to understand that not lowering yourself does not mean losing your kindness. It simply means you stop placing yourself below everyone else in your own life. You can still give, but no longer from depletion. You can still love, but no longer by sacrificing everything. And from this new point of balance, you feel steadier on your feet. Less shaken when circumstances change. A very different feeling begins to emerge when you start living in alignment with your values. A feeling of calm. Not because life has become perfect, but because you know you will no longer betray yourself in exchange for acceptance. And once that foundation is set, you no longer need to chase anything. What belongs to you will find its way to you. Because at last, you have allowed yourself to receive, not from lack, but from worth. And when you allow yourself to receive, Libra, you may notice a very unusual stillness appear. Not an empty, frightening void, but the kind of space that remains after something has gently left. Like a room that has just been cleared. The scent of old dust and memory still lingers, but the air has finally begun to move again. There is an ending present here, even if it never needs to be named. It does not arrive loudly. It does not ask for attention. It simply happens, right at the moment when you no longer have the strength to carry anything more. Libra may feel a soft sadness pass through, light like morning mist. Sadness for what you once hoped for. for what you tried so hard to hold on to, for a version of yourself that lived for a long time in endurance. And yet, alongside that sadness, there is another feeling. Deeper, truer, a sense of release. As if, for the first time in many years, your chest opens and breath enters freely without resistance. At last you can breathe. No permission required. No explanations needed. Some endings are not losses. They are completions. They arrive when the lesson has been learned, when the soul has traveled far enough to understand what it needed to understand. Libra has been in this season long enough to know that what has lost its energy cannot be carried forward any longer, whether it was a relationship, an environment, or an image of yourself you once believed was necessary. When the time comes, the body knows before the mind. It grows tired, it grows heavy, it no longer responds. And that is the most honest signal of all. This ending may make you quieter than usual. You may feel less inclined to explain, less interested in sorting right from wrong. You simply want to sit with what you feel, allowing it to pass without trying to fix it. There is a gentle sense of reverence in this moment, like a silent farewell to the road you once walked. No blame, no resentment, only the quiet acknowledgement that everything has reached its natural conclusion. Libra, you did not fail by letting go. On the contrary, you are showing a rare kind of courage. Not the courage to fight on, but the courage to stop at the right moment. To thank what once walked beside you, whether it brought joy or pain. To accept that some things do not need to be carried for a lifetime to prove their worth. In this stillness, you may realize something else. You are not alone. There is an unseen support present, very close. It does not rush you into happiness. It does not demand instant strength. It simply remains, steady enough for you to lean into while you are soft. And it is this permission to be soft that allows healing to arrive sooner than you expect. This is a farewell to an old chapter, but it carries no heaviness. It is like the sunset closing a long day, softening the sky, preparing the way for another light to rise. You do not need to hurry forward. Just remain with the lighter feeling in your heart, with your breath returning to its rhythm, with the truth that you gave everything you had to the path you have just completed. And as you stand in this quiet crossing, between what has ended and what has not yet found a name, something very clear begins to form. A sense that life is still moving, but at a different pace, slower, deeper, more honest. And in this rhythm, you no longer have to struggle for permission to exist. You only need to be present, exactly as you are, and allow a new light, very soft, very warm, to begin touching you from within. As that light begins to spread, Libra feels a subtle shift in the way the world responds. Not grand promises, not instant miracles, but the feeling of meeting life at the right rhythm. Things begin to come to you more gently, more naturally, without effort, without the need to prove anything. It may show up as an honest look held a little longer, a conversation that does not drain you, or a clear thought arriving in your mind about a direction you once never dared to choose. After you let go of what is old, space opens within you, and that space becomes an invitation. A very quiet invitation, yet strong enough to draw new connections in. Not because you are searching, but because you are no longer running from yourself. When you stop living from a place of lack, you stop attracting relationships built on compensation. You begin to draw in what comes from alignment, from mutual respect, from the desire to walk together, not to pull one another forward. This time, Libra notices something different. Connection no longer asks you to trade away your peace. You no longer overanalyze. You no longer read between every emotional line with anxiety. Things are clearer, even if they move slowly. And that slowness brings a deep sense of safety. Whether it is a person entering your life, an opportunity opening before you, or an entirely new way of living, the common thread is this: you do not have to make yourself smaller to fit. A quiet, beautiful maturity is taking shape. You begin choosing connections where you can be yourself. No performance, no armor. You can be silent without being misunderstood. You can speak without fearing abandonment. The balance you once searched for outside yourself is now forming within. And because of that, What enters your life moves to the same rhythm. Libra begins to see that you are no longer drawn to imbalanced relationships, places where you gave too much, places where you constantly adjusted yourself just to belong. They no longer call to you. Not because you have become stricter, but because you now understand the value of clarity. You know that love, collaboration, any true bond, must be built on respect. And when that foundation exists, there is no need to guess. You simply feel. Something very special happens when you step into new connections from a place of wholeness. You no longer expect someone to save you. You no longer hope an opportunity will fill an empty space. You arrive with open hands, but not empty ones. And because of that, what comes toward you does not arrive with weight. It comes to walk beside you, to resonate with you, to help build something healthier, something that can last. In these new connections, Libra feels truly seen. Not because you try to shine, but because you dare to be real. You do not rush the pace. You do not force definitions. Everything is allowed to unfold in its natural timing, and you are calm enough to trust that process. As you walk this new path, a feeling returns, one you have not touched in a long time. The feeling that life is no longer something to endure, but something that can be lived. Not always easy, but always meaningful. And when you notice yourself smiling without knowing exactly why, you will understand. You have entered a different season. One where connection is no longer a burden, but companionship. One where you no longer ask if you are enough, because deep within, you have known the answer for a very long time. And when that question no longer echoes inside you, another voice begins to grow clearer. Not loud, not demanding, but steady, unmistakable. This is your intuition, Libra. The most refined, the most intelligent part of you. One you have ignored far too many times just to keep everything smooth and peaceful. In the coming days, this voice no longer whispers. It shows up clearly in the smallest moments, in decisions that once seemed ordinary. You may feel it as a gentle tightening in your chest right before you agree to something that is not right. As a sudden hesitation before a promise that sounds appealing on the surface. Or as a strong inner urge to finally say something you have swallowed for a long time. Intuition is not here to confuse you. It is here to save you energy, time, and unnecessary pain. During these 3 days, Libra becomes more sensitive to the spaces around them. You feel the difference between places that allow you to expand and places that cause you to shrink. You notice that some conversations leave you lighter, while certain encounters drain you before they even begin. Your body responds quickly, faster than your mind can analyze. And this time, you no longer want to ignore those signals. There may be a familiar moment when you stand before a familiar choice. Stay to preserve stability, or step away to preserve yourself. In the past, you usually chose the first, but now, as intuition awakens, it becomes clear. Peace that requires self-betrayal is no longer what you want. When a very clear feeling appears that it is time to leave, this is not impulse. It is the result of long observation and long endurance. There are also moments when intuition does not tell you to leave, but to pause. Pause before making a promise. Pause before explaining too much. Pause to listen to yourself just a little longer. In that pause, you see true motivation more clearly. Yours and others. Clarity does not come from more analysis. It comes from allowing yourself to fully feel. The energetic gate is open, but it will not stay open forever. It opens to help you see the path more clearly, not to invite further hesitation. Your intuition now is like a finely tuned compass. It does not only show you the right direction, it also helps you avoid old loops. Situations that once exhausted you, that once made you question your worth, now reveal themselves quickly. And you do not owe anyone an explanation for choosing differently. A new calm appears when you begin to trust your intuition. You are no longer pulled by other people's emotions. You no longer feel responsible for fixing everything. You understand now that your first responsibility is honesty with yourself. And when you act from that place, even difficult decisions become lighter, because they come from truth. Libra begins to realize that intuition does not oppose logic. It simply walks one step ahead. It sees what the mind needs more time to accept. And in this brief window, while the door is still open, you are given the chance to choose differently. You do not need to be perfect. You only need the courage to stop ignoring the voice within you. When you begin to act on intuition, even through the smallest change, a strange alignment appears. What no longer belongs falls away on its own. What is right arrives with natural timing, and in that alignment, you understand something deeply. You are not alone on this path. You are being guided, very gently, very precisely, back to the place your soul has wanted to reach for a very long time. And when you pause long enough to truly feel this, Libra begins to understand a truth that is both simple and deeply profound. That everything that has been moving around you lately was never meant to take anything away. Not to punish you. Not to test your endurance once again. It came to return you to your rightful place. The place you once stepped away from out of fear of disappointing others. Out of fear of losing connection. Out of fear that if you lived too honestly, there would be no space left for you in this world. But now, you have walked far enough to see clearly. Losing yourself has never been the way to be fully loved. This change arrives as a gentle reminder. You no longer need to chase anything. You no longer need to prove your worth. You no longer need to cling to what is already leaving out of fear of the space ahead. That space is not loss. It is room to receive. Libra has always been the one to give first. To give compassion. To give time. To give even your silence so others could feel comfortable. But the universe is whispering a different message now. It is time to open your hands, not to give more, but to receive. To receive respect. To receive opportunities that do not require you to make yourself smaller. To receive connections rooted in clarity and sincerity. Being ready does not mean knowing exactly what is coming next. It simply means you are no longer closing the door on the possibility of a lighter life. Being ready means allowing yourself to believe that good things do not have to come with suffering. That you can be loved without sacrifice. That you can succeed without exhaustion. That you can find peace without abandoning yourself. There may still be a very human trace of worry inside you. A small part that wonders if you are being unrealistic, if this change can truly last. But notice this. That fear no longer fills your entire inner space. It is just a thin cloud, passing through a sky that has grown much brighter. You do not need to chase it away. You only need to refuse to let it lead. When the energetic gate opens, what does not belong to you will leave on its own. And what is meant for you will arrive naturally. Perhaps slowly. Perhaps unexpectedly. But always with a sense of rightness. A feeling that requires no force. No explanation. No question of whether you are enough. Libra comes to see that your true place is not in the center of tension, nor in the role of balancing the entire world. Your place is where you can be yourself. With an open heart, but no longer easily wounded. Where you walk with softness, without weakness. Where you allow life to touch you without needing to defend yourself. And in this moment, as everything seems to quiet down, allow yourself to rest in trust. Trust that you have done enough. Trust that you have walked the right path. Trust that nothing has arrived too late. Everything is coming at the right time, at the right rhythm, in alignment with who you are becoming. You do not need to rush forward. Simply take a deep breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel your heartbeat settle. Then gently open your heart, because when you are ready to receive, life no longer needs to knock. It will step in, softly, truthfully, and it will stay in the way you have always hoped for, even if, in the past, you never dared to believe you were worthy of it.